All right, I have 5 minutes for introductions, so we're probably going to do it fast, just introductions. We're going to skip a question this time so we can finish our agenda. Today, my name is Zoila Copiano. I am the Housing Director, Housing Stability Director here at Community Action, and I'm the chair of this performance committee. Um, yeah, so I am going to popcorn. I have Marsha next on.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marcia Hilly. I'm the Executive Director at Sequoia. She, her pronouns. And I will go to Emily because she's next on my screen.
Hello, my name is Emily Roots. I use she, her pronouns, and I work for Washington County as a housing communications coordinator, and I focus on the homeless services division. Oh, and I need to popcorn. I will pass it to Carly.
Hi, everybody. Carly Brandini, she, her pronouns, Quality Improvement Program Coordinator. And I will popcorn to Justin.
Good afternoon, Justin Fontenot, he, him, his, and I am with Washington County as the Access Program Supervisor for Shelters, Outreach, and Liaisons. Nadia?
Sorry, there's too many screens. I'm Nadia Mohammed. I am the Advisory Bodies Coordinator here at Washington County with Homeless Services. I use she, her pronouns. And let's see, Sia.
And I'm Sia Lindstrom with City of Beaverton, she, her. And since I'm late to the party, I don't know who's gone. So somebody's going to have to help me with who to popcorn to next.
I'll phone the friend. I'll be the friend to phone rather. Yeah.
Thank
Hey folks.
you.
My name is Nicole Sting. I use she, her pronouns. I serve as Strategic Initiatives and Relations Manager in the Housing Department here at Washington County. And I will pass it over to Mare, who is a mystery person with a different name there.
You're muted, or something's with your audio.
Yeah. Maybe while Mare gets her audio go. Oh,
can you hear me now? I just came from another meeting, so now all my audio settings are all changed, so that's why. My name is Meredith Cook, she, her pronouns. I'm Administrative Assistant for Homeless Services. And I too wasn't fully paying attention as I'm trying to take attendance. So Sean, have you gone?
Thank you, Sean Cardwell, Executive Director of the Forest Grove Foundation. Good afternoon, Roland.
Good afternoon. I'm Rolanda Garcia, and I'm the Oregon Department of Human Services District Manager in Washington County. Amanda?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amanda Fox. I work for Oregon Department of Emergency Management as a State Disaster Recovery Coordinator. So mainly to support disaster recovery, but at the beginning of Executive Order 23-02, I helped facilitate some of the build-up for the MAC groups. But really grateful. Jill, I think she has been attending these meetings. Jill came on to help support this so that we could focus a little bit on disaster recovery specifically, and more recently the 2024 wildfires. But Jill, I'll go ahead and call on you first. Thanks for having me be here, and let me know if there's anything we can help support you guys at the state, help coordinate. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jill Boyer, and I am off screen because I'm still sick. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but as Amanda said, I've been working with OEM on the executive order and the homelessness initiative. My last day with OEM will be this Friday, as the biennium is changing, of course, and all the work will be done through OHCS going forward after this year. And I don't know who to call on.
I can go. I can go. Lindsay Downen, she, her, VP of Quality and Impact for a new narrative. I think, Kim, you might be the only one left that I can see.
Thank you. Kim Marshall, Executive Director at Project Homeless Connect, she, her pronouns, and I'm also the chair of the Solutions Council for Washington County.
Minutes. Perfect. Well, thank you again for showing up. And, as the performance evaluation technical subcommittee, we're trying to, see the system, see what's working, what's not working, what are the bottlenecks. And we need the ideas of everybody who is, part of this systems to provide our homeless population some relief. So with that, I think we start the conversation of the Community Connect, the shelter lone stayers, people that we have and our shelters staying for longer time. And I think Justin is ready to give us an overview and then probably asking us questions of how things that we can improve and we need to improve in order to move the system forward. Justin?
Yeah, so as mentioned, this is technically the exact same presentation that we shared last time. We just ran it to the very end and didn't have time to go over the discussion questions. So I'll do a brief overview of the previous overview, and then we can dive into the questions. Oh, thank you, Nadia. So I guess really where I was wanting to start there is primarily focusing on slide 2. And so first, to make sure that we are all on the same page here, we are identifying shelter long stayers as individuals who have been in the shelter for over 100 days. That's the tipping point to become a long stayer in the shelter. And so this information again is as of last month, but at that point in time, we had 335 individuals enrolled or households enrolled in shelter, with 169 of them being long stayers. Again, that being over the 100-day mark. And with those long stayers, we kind of break them up into 2 categories. Ones who have a housing enrollment, and an enrollment into a housing program, and then those who do not have enrollment into a housing program. And so as of last month, 67 of those long stayers were enrolled in said housing program. Let's see, what slides do we want? We can then jump to slide 9, please. We can go to slide 9, or I do also have it up on my screen. I can share if that would be easier.
You said 9?
Yes, please.
9. Okay.
The current efforts and findings. Perfect, thank you. So the way that the county has engaged with the long stayers thus far is that we have a particular case conferencing that we engage with for the shelter long stayers. And that practice has been in place since, I believe, somewhere around April-ish of last year, meeting twice a month, where we go over every individual who is identified as a long stayer. However, what we've realized in practice is that that's 169 people as of last month, and that's virtually impossible to do if we only have 90 minutes. So what has happened in practice is that we pretty much only discuss the long stayers who have the housing enrollment, ensuring that they have all of the documents that they need for the ARLA voucher, getting them ready to go, finding a place, keeping them engaged, and going through the inspection processes, understanding their barriers to get them to be successfully housed throughout that housing program. And that doesn't leave us any time to discuss the individuals who do not have that housing program. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But for those that do, just a little snapshot of, I believe this was the month of September. Within the first month of people getting that housing program enrollment, 27% of those long stayers within the first month were either housed, had a move-in date, or had gotten to the point in the process where they are just waiting a unit inspection so that they can then move in after that inspection passes. And so that's a pretty good success rate considering it's just the first month of people being enrolled in the program. Certainly, there are other individuals, whether that be long stayers or people who had the program before being enrolled in shelters, who have very, very high numbers and barriers to that progress in the housing program. However, the long staircase conferencing, again, is going over those barriers to help us understand what's going on. And then all of the providers are in this meeting together. So we then operate in a brainstorming fashion to pool the resources and to ensure that everyone has what they need to help support the individuals through that process. And we can go to the next slide. So I'm kind of just jumping all over from memory here. And so, yeah, I pretty much said the first part here already, that it helps us identify those barriers and starts the navigation process for housing. So that people can efficiently move through that system whenever the case manager engages with them to get them housed. Now, again, as I had mentioned previously, the gap that we are seeing is not enough time to discuss the individuals who do not have a housing program. And I think a critical argument here is that, well, hey, these are the people who absolutely need a huge and large discussion about their situations because they don't have that housing program to get them out of the shelters in the same fashion. That could be they are simply waiting on the housing program to accept them, or they could fall too low on the prioritization to where they are not going to be connected with a housing program in a timely fashion, or honestly, if ever, given dependent on that level of prioritization. And so, again, as this is a month-old presentation, at that point, we did not have a shelter long stay or case conferencing for participants without a housing placement. We now do, and that has met once so far. So we certainly have gotten good, significant updates on those individuals because I don't think some of those individuals had updates since the month of August, which is just honestly unacceptable there. So we are now moving and making progress in that fashion. However, I do want to pose some questions to you all with y'all's experience to see what we could be missing and areas for improvement. And so those particular questions are on the next page, the next slide, thank you. And I'm also open to hearing any other questions that you all have regarding this, or any other thoughts or recommendations that don't fit within the listed questions here. I suppose I'll also note that I did not re-review the program metrics here. And we can go over that if you all want to, but we did recap that in a detailed fashion last time. So with those questions, I'll stop in and hear from you all what you have to say in regard to these questions, or any other comments or questions unrelated to these listed ones. Or any questions that you might have to help support you in engaging with these listed questions.
I have a question. So for those, I think you mentioned 40% who holds a housing program, they're loan stayers and they have a housing program. I'm assuming they're working with a housing navigator, right? To work the process of that specifically housing program that the participant have been referred.
Correct, yes. And so that could honestly be like the HCMS caseworker. That could also be the shelter liaison. It's kind of um, whoever has the information and the contact with that individual to smooth over that process. Hence us coming together for the case conferencing to share the updates for the individual and problem solving around what each individual has come into contact with.
So we do have information of what is the main barrier for those 40% in order to move forward with that, right? Like unable to find a unit, or like what is the main barrier on that part when the participant is already on a housing program?
Yeah, so before we started the case conferencing, I would say that honestly, the main barrier was the ARLA process, getting them verified for getting all of the documentation. ARLA also had a pretty extensive backlog of people that they were trying to process. So that was a primary barrier, perhaps maybe 7 or 8 months ago. That is no longer the case. The ARLA team has gone through a lot of situations and hiring of new individuals to get that response time significantly better. Off the top of my head, I can't recall the rate of improvement, but I know it was somewhere over a month, and I think it's gotten down to like maybe a week, but don't quote me on that. So that was a huge process. And so again, with this case conferencing, it was a support of like having the shelter liaisons, for example, work with the individuals to get the necessary documents to then speed along that application process. Another barrier, and it's one that honestly does remain significant barriers for individuals, would be criminal history, especially if that is a recent criminal history situation. So I'll note that one thing that we are looking to do to kind of circumvent those criminal history barriers is working with parole and probation and community corrections to get their understanding of landlords who tend to work with individuals with high criminal barrier backgrounds. So I know that conversation has started, but we are continuing to have longer discussions with them around that situation. Any other questions out there? Hearing none. And if, of course, if anything comes up after you sit and chew on it a little bit, please do reach out with those questions and recommendations, and we can engage with that. Again, the case conferencing structures are happening twice a week, with the next one being next week, next Thursday. So we'll continue to see the updates and the progress there. And over time, I'll be reporting back with that, particularly in the MAC reports, which I guess is a fabulous transition to what I believe is the next topic. All right.
Go ahead.
So I do have that, and I'll share that really quick. Okay, so this is what we are working with here. Let's see if I can make that bigger. Okay, so for the MAC report, a lot of the things have remained the same from the month of September. So I have bolded the things that have changed for the month of October. So highlighting those first, and especially as it relates to housing placements and long stayers for the month of October. We had 74 housing placements. That was up, I believe September was 59. I will note, however, on that number, the way that the data reports it is by the beginning of the week. And so there's one day of September and then one day of November, technically within this 74 number here. But for the most part, we had an increase of housing placements for the month of October, reaching 74 total ones. And some challenges that we continue to face here is continued barriers to accessing health, behavioral health, and substance use treatment for unsheltered and sheltered individuals. Honestly, while this isn't a new addition to this particular report, it is a perpetual need that we are seeing, which is honestly indicated by the needs from the state here, that those have remained the same, but they all tend to be centered around health system alignment. Of course, the access to the medical services and flexibility with Medicaid eligibility, and higher needs for elderly participants who can't live independently. So we definitely continue to see the understandable but struggle points in regard to that. An additional challenge here is the Measure 10 reform. What we are noticing at some of our points of services, particularly some access centers, is increased visibility of law enforcement in those areas, which appears to be having the impact of keeping individuals or causing fear in individuals to go to such locations to receive services, whether that be the fear of being caught by law enforcement, or just the mere presence that could be uncomfortable for some individuals. So that is a challenge that we are experiencing with the recriminalization of the drugs there. And then flipping over to some positives, some highlights. as I mentioned with the shelter long stayer, the case conferencing practice that we have are increasing the speed in which people are getting placed into housing. That coordination is going wonderfully well, as the case conferencing model tends to do. And similarly, our healthcare case conferencing, that is a wonderful process as well that is leading to some great success. So much success, excuse me, so much success that we are working to develop an additional case conferencing model for behavioral health. We are working with Care Oregon to offer an additional space where folks can come in and discuss the populations with some behavioral health needs in a way that we can't really get to and or don't have enough time to in the traditional regular healthcare case conferencing. And so those are the updates and additions for the month of October. So I'll stop there and see if there are any questions, comments, or concerns.
Just in 74 housing placements, those are like 74 participants that have been housed in the month of October.
Correct, yes.
Nice.
Rock on.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially a nice jump from 59 to 74. I was like, did I count that right?
Yeah.
I did.
So that's rapid rehousing, are moving, or is a specific.
Yeah, that would be the HCMS, the rapid rehousing, the short-term solutions move in only, yeah.
See, those are numbers that I like.
Right.
No questions? Right. So thank you, Justin. That was awesome. And I think it's Emily, right? Who's going to do the Supporting Houses Service annual report presentation? Oops.
I think so. Oh, thank you, Nadia. This is great. And I was wondering if I could get like a show of hands from folks. How many of you were here and heard this presentation at the HISN meeting on November 6th? Okay, so it looks like we're about a 50-50 split. I just don't want to be too repetitive. And I also want to invite anyone who's hearing this presentation for the second time. This is a smaller group, so as we go along, feel free to jump in and ask questions, or if there's something specific you want me to dig in on and chat about more, I'm happy to do that. Also, one final caveat. I said this at the beginning of the meeting. I'm a housing communications person. I'm not as much on the programmatic work, so I kind of know a little bit about everything. But if you really want to dig into the details around like financials or some program related work, luckily we have Justin in the room, so he could be a great resource. But it's possible some questions I might not be able to answer, but I'm happy to follow up via email and check in on things afterwards. So without further ado, we shared our supportive housing services annual report with Metro October 31st, and we're starting to share that information more broadly. And I'll just go ahead and ground us in a story of one of our program participants. I know in this space you hear a lot of numbers and some of you do direct service work, but it's always like more meaningful to me when I'm able to contextualize this work in terms of someone who's actually kind of living this experience and receiving our services. So this is Russell. He moved into housing in the spring, and before that, he had stayed at the Hillsborough Bridge Shelter, and before that, he was at an encampment that at the time was pretty active off of 185th and Shaw. So he's truly been through the whole continuum of housing services, received outreach from our outreach providers, and it was really great to get the update that he was housed in the spring after being homeless for many years. So, just a reminder of the work we do, and really excited to kind of champion his success. Next slide, please. And these are some other fun highlights. My favorite part, all the good news. One I really want to draw attention to is that we spent 100% of the SHS budget last year. You all are kind of in the know, but we've had a media kind of frenzy around the idea that SHS dollars are not being spent and that the resource is underutilized. That's not the case in Washington County, and I'm hearing a similar story from Clackamas and Multnomah County. So the more we can tell that story of really utilizing these dollars, of working with our partner agencies, I think that's an important story to tell, especially because SHS cannot do it all. We still need more resources to address the housing crisis, and that will be the case for a very long time. Some other highlights, we served over 10,000 people. So that includes all of our typical housing programs. That includes people who came through shelter. And that also includes people who interfaced with either outreach or housing liaisons who are embedded in a few different sectors. And within that, 1,200 people moved into housing through SHS funded programs. So that's permanent supportive housing or rapid rehousing. And 4,400 plus people remained housed either through eviction prevention and some of our more limited rent assistance as well. So lots of good news to share there. Next slide, please. And with that, we're at this point a little over 3 years into a 10-year measure. We began implementing the SHS program in 2021. So that's kind of what we consider our baseline to be in terms of the kind of growth we've had. And as you can see, that growth has been tremendous across, staff capacity with case managers and outreach workers, tremendous growth in shelter units, and at this point, tripling our housing capacity that we have available. And with all of that growth, there's still the hard story that we're not fully meeting the need in Washington County. So it's a double-edged sword. In some ways, we're like so proud and excited about that growth, and it's also challenging to see how far there still is yet to go. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to jump into some of our goals and outcomes. In the Homeless Services Division, we really focus on setting ambitious goals that are also achievable. And you'll see that in our outcomes. Some of our goals we achieved and then some, and others we did not meet. I think Justin has kind of dived into some of the nuance there with you, looking at shelter long stayers and things like that, and how that kind of intersects with how many folks we're serving through permanent supportive housing and rapid rehousing. So our goal was 500 households for permanent supportive housing, and we ended up housing 399 households. Rapid rehousing, our goal was 300 households, and we housed 241. The Move-In Ready Fund, this was something that got a lot of questions at HISN, and it's a program I wasn't as familiar with. But in a nutshell, it's basically that like one-time assistance to get folks moved into housing, things like a security deposit, that kind of thing, without ongoing assistance. And that program launched much later than we anticipated, but we anticipate it being more heavily utilized this year. So our goal was 200 households. We served 6 households. And then eviction prevention went above and beyond. Our goal was 500 households, and we tripled that, serving over 1,500 households. And last but not least, looking at shelter created. So our goal was 60 units, and really because of the executive order that was super helpful in purchasing additional pod shelter units, we were able to open 90 pod shelter units. Shelter is another kind of a weird sort of ambiguous category to talk about because I feel like we're constantly cycling up and down in terms of how much shelter we have available. So even like just looking recently, we're getting ready to open the Beaverton year-round shelter in December. At the same time, we closed the Safe Rest pods in Hillsborough at the end of October. Kind of a complicated story to navigate. But the pods have been really instrumental in creating more of that temporary shelter capacity as we wait for those year-round permanent shelter structures to be completed. Next slide, please. So thinking a little bit about the populations we serve, there is so much data here. I really encourage you, if you're a data nerd, to dig into some of the attachments on our annual report, because it's very fascinating and impossible to distill into a short presentation. So we're seeing, I think our partnerships with culturally specific providers are really leading to an increased reach for communities of color. That's particularly Latinx households, but we saw that with Black households as well, that we're basically serving more households in comparison to how many Black and Latinx households experience poverty in Washington County. And the hope is by disproportionately serving those populations, we can address some of those kind of historic barriers that are constantly at play. We also noticed that eviction prevention is especially effective in reaching diverse populations. I would say that's true generally, that most resources that are serving primarily population B households also do a better job of reaching diverse populations. And that's kind of another tricky balance point for us, in that over the course of the 10-year measure, we should be serving 75% population A, while at the same time really wanting to prioritize serving BIPOC households who may more traditionally fall into like that population area. So those are conversations that we're digging into a lot internally. Let's see. Then SHS funded interventions. This is interesting. So for the supportive housing services portfolio specifically, we're also seeing more diverse outcomes than other homeless services programs. And then we saw this last year, we're seeing this again this year. There still needs to be improvements to better serve Asian and Native populations. And that's the area we're really going to focus on this year. I don't know if Trinard has been able to come to this group, but he is our equity coordinator. He started over the summer, and I know he's really excited to kind of dig into this work more over the next year. Next slide, please. So shelter and outreach. I'm going to skim this because I know you've heard so much from Justin just minutes ago. So you can go to the next slide. So we're seeing 433 shelter beds. Again, that is kind of cycling up and down, but generally speaking, over 400 shelter beds active in Washington County. And we've got some big capital projects that are nearing completion, and that's going to offer not just more shelter capacity, but more purpose-built shelter capacity, which I think is really important when you look at kind of how historically shelter has operated in the county, and what a big difference it makes when you actually are able to allocate a space specifically for the purpose of shelter. Next slide. And this is a map of all of our active shelters currently. It's not perfect. As I said, things shift so quickly that it can be very difficult to keep this map up to date. But I think generally speaking, what this map kind of illustrates is the way shelter kind of follows public transportation, how key that is in operating shelter. So you'll notice a lot of our shelter locations are placed near either solid, max, and bus locations. That public transportation is so key when serving this population. Next slide. And here's a little bit more about our outreach providers. For the most part, we have Washington County divided into geographic areas, but we do have a couple of population-specific outreach providers as well. And they've done really great work in the last year. And I think we've seen that in the dip in unsheltered homelessness that we saw in the point in time count in 2023. You can go to the next slide. Partnership. We can go to the next slide. So I think cross-sector alignment is something that we've really been honing in on in the homeless services division. We're seeing gaps in areas, particularly around healthcare, but I also think another kind of really successful component of our work that is lesser known is our partnership with law enforcement, specifically for emergency beds at several of our shelter locations. This is also strategically lesser known because we want it to be used as more of like a last resort, quickly get someone into shelter for the night. It's not meant to supplant coordinated entry, but I hear a lot about this partnership, and I think it's a really good opportunity to make sure that law enforcement and other community partners are connected with avenues towards shelter. And with that, so we've got 24 total service providers operating with SHS funding. I looked a little bit at the data and just noticed that there's a high rate of staff with lived experience, and that we also have a higher rate of staff identifying as Black, Indigenous, Latinx, and other persons of color. And annual salaries is not surprising. A lot of that I think is stipulated in the contracts, but they're typically between $50,000 and $60,000. One exciting highlight that I want to share is the Housing Careers Program. Enrolled 45 participants last year, meeting their goal. And year 4, I think they're looking at expanding that program beyond just housing specific careers to look at general employment as a way to help participants graduate, which I could see being really beneficial, especially in programs like rapid rehousing. Okay, next slide. I'm going to go out on a limb, assume this group is pretty plugged in and that we can probably skip over advisory bodies. So taking a look at the financial overview, this is where I start to get a little out of my depth, but I will do my best. I think the long and the short of what this bar chart is meant to illustrate is that we have seen tremendous SHS growth from year 1 to now where we're at year 4, which is, this is looking, that last bar chart is looking at our budget, not necessarily our expenditures. So the first 3 years are focusing specifically on expenditures, but since we're still in the early days of year 4, that's looking at our budget. But based on kind of where we're at, I would anticipate that we would spend the vast majority of those funds. Next slide, please. And this is another component to kind of be aware of. Historically, Metro sends out revenue forecasts. And generally, when we've received collections back, they've exceeded what Metro initially forecasted. This last year was the first time where we saw that trend move in the other direction, where Metro sends out a forecast range, and it ended up on the lower end of that. And that is sort of where we're in the kind of complicated budget conversations that we're in right now. And also just like looking at the level of program expansion, at some point you have to move towards more of like that refinement area. And there will be many more updates on the revenue piece because that will impact a lot of the work that we do. But I just want to end with another story of hope. I had the opportunity to hear Kayla speak at the Bridge to Home shelter that Family Promise of Tualatin Valley operates, and she is such a powerful speaker. Her and her family also moved into housing in the spring, and before that, they stayed at the Family Promise shelter. And yeah, it's just really cool to see them be successful. And we've actually got a video that we're working on where Kayla and her husband share a little bit more. All right, let's land with the SHS impact. Just looking at the last 3 years, we've housed almost 3,000 people. And because of that, unsheltered homelessness is going down. Now, point in time count is a complicated data source. There are likely lots of other factors at play, but I do hear anecdotally from many of our providers as well that we're seeing unsheltered homelessness from where it was 3 years ago drop significantly. And that is really good news. And that's it for me. Do you folks have any questions?
Hey, Emily, it's Kim. Great job.
Thank you.
So this question might be for Justin, unless you know this answer. Those one-time move-in fees that you discussed?
Yes.
Who's the target population for those?
I believe, is it more population B, Justin?
In practice, that is who it is, not the target, but in practice, yes, it tends to be population B because there is a need to be able to sustain the rent themselves. And so if you're working and have that higher income in that spectrum, that tends to be who we are serving. But in any case, it depending on that work situation, it could be anyone who just needs that one-time hand up to then maintain that unit themselves. I'll also acknowledge that folks who have vouchers, which would probably tend to be your population A, are also benefiting from the move-in only program. Since the voucher would be able to sustain the rent, they're just needing the security deposit. So summing that up, voucher holders primarily and population B primarily, since they would then be able to sustain that themselves.
Justin, do you know how much funding was allocated to that line item?
700,000. However, that's a little tricky because so the program has two different sides: the move-in only, which is the goal that is listed there, and then short-term solutions, which that's more of your neutral, potentially neutral housing outcomes, such as reunification with a family member or host household assistance. So both of those sides of the program technically have a total of 700,000, which, if I'm being honest here, it doesn't break down to a lot of money per household if we're trying to house 200 within that.
But
it's not a lot.
And we only did 6 last year, is what this is saying, correct?
6 last year, but it was severely underutilized last year. Severely. We can do, like, we've certainly had weeks this fiscal year where we've done 6 or more in a week.
Thanks, guys.
Any other questions?
None. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Hey, Emily, I do have one. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
See ya. Hey, Emily. I know you're coming to visit our city council soon. And is that the same you're going to use a version of that same presentation?
Yes, sorry, you're going to get a duplicated content. We do have a little bit more that will focus on Beaverton. So we broke out our voucher holders. How many will be in Beaverton? I think we did the same for shelter and a couple other metrics, but generally speaking, yes.
Good, good. Just curious if we're going to see the same thing again, which is
good.
Thank you.
Try not to let your eyes glaze over.
Thank you. I'm gonna say that as a service provider, sometimes we focus on the daily activities that we have, and the daily activities is the need that we see. So seeing the system, the numbers as a system, it's good. So we don't focus on what we see every day in our activities. So I appreciate this look of the whole positive changes that we have been doing since we got this. Thank you. Okay, I think we're done with the items in our agenda. And Nadia, are you going to talk about next steps?
Sure. So I included this in the email that I sent, but just to reiterate, next month we're going to talk about a couple of things. So one is the LSA, and that is going to involve the Performance Evaluation Subcommittee, you all giving a recommendation to Solutions Council. So if you can make that meeting, it would be really great. And we'll also be discussing the HMIS changes. So we are looking to update the HMIS vendor, and there's an RFP. There's a whole process to this, which will involve more folks from the community getting involved to review those vendors, and then to work through that process. And so in my email, I requested if anyone would like to volunteer, if they have an interest in this, then we can go from there also. And if we don't get volunteers, then we're going to start reaching out to people. And then aside from that, we have our luncheon that I hope you all can make. You should have received an invite. And I think that's everything.
Thank you. You need the response by the meeting that we're going to have in December, or you need the response for the volunteer capacity before?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay. Nicole, you can correct me if I'm wrong if you're still there. I think it's okay at the meeting if you want to hear more before you make that decision. I provided in the email what I think is an estimate of the immediate time commitment. We're looking for 2 volunteers at this time that will review these vendors towards the end of January, early February. And there are also folks who just might know that like, oh, this is like something I'm really interested in, or this is something I really want to be involved in. And so if you are one of those people, then feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Nadia. All right, we ended early. I guess we had time for the questions. We're gonna leave it for next meeting, so you can have 7 minutes back. Who wants that? I do. See you next month. Bye.
Take care.